Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. Okay, we're gonna have to get used to saying that now. Um, what's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? Oh boy, so Fussin, Cussin Z. I kind of lost steam, y'all. I had it a few minutes ago, but no. I'm still annoyed by the clips that y'all saw. I added some other stuff. Not necessarily as rage inducing as earlier. We will be commencing with the profanity in a little bit. This is what a way to start a morning, right? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. Okay, so this is the left fighting back. We knew it was gonna happen. We predicted it. We estimated it. This is the left fighting back against what they deem or see as sexist, misogynistic folks men who want to go back to some 1950s, particularly white men. And I can't say anything about the white men. I do think that they have their own agenda separate and apart from what black men are saying. I want to emphasize that what black men are speaking about is cooperation and the cost of cooperation, and how there are gendered pleasures that women enjoy, and there are performances of womanhood and assumptions of womanhood that we have not taken away or removed from women, although we have taken away the performance or what is the expectations on men is the same. The gendered pleasures that men should enjoy by playing such role have been removed. Women, on the other hand, they get to participate and enjoy an array of different endeavors and behaviors, which no longer limit them into playing a particular role, a gendered role, if you will, but they don't have any of the gendered pleasures removed. And so we're here now. What black men are saying is we will not participate in a system that penalizes us for not performing a particular way, doesn't reward us for performing a particular way, and provides us with the meanest, snarkiest, rudest, most entitled, consumerist, materialistic, insulting, demeaning, weaponizing intersectionality against us as women. So what men are saying, black men, excuse me, are saying is completely separate and apart from what white men are saying. Now let's pause. With that, there are certain things that will rhyme, that will sound similar, that might actually even be somewhat alike between what white men are saying and what black men are saying in America. I would argue that black men are looking for cooperation. Even when they use the word quote unquote submission, when pressed, they will describe something that seems more like cooperation, where black men get the final say, majority vote, not where it's she has 10% of the say, 5% of the say, 1% of the say, and the black man, has 99, 95, 90% of the say. What white men are speaking on when they say submission, that's a whole different conversation. They might actually mean it. They do mean it in every sense of the word. So I definitely want to emphasize that before we get started. I'm going to play a couple of clips where, once again, the conversation is being skewed and we're not defining what we mean. We're not asking folks to go into detail on what they mean when they use particular words and phrases. So we'll ask a question and we won't push the person or ask the person to elaborate on what they think we meant when we asked the question, or what do they mean when they use certain words, phrases, and terms. This allows those who are studying to interpret this all different manners of ways that speaks to their agenda. I'm looking at you, the left, right? Now, I know what Mr. Z is saying might sound a little vague, but we're going to play this and we'll respond to it on the other end, right? So let's play should we play the longer clip first or the shorter clip first? Let's play the longer clip first. Once again, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. And here we go.
The majority of men in America want a return to traditional gender roles, but most women aren't so sure. That's just one finding from a brand new poll from the nonprofit news publication, The 19th, along with SurveyMonkey. We're the first folks to get a look at this, and the study also takes a look at Americans' views on toxic masculinity, as well as abortion access and stay-at-home parenting. There's a lot to dig into here with editor-at-large for The 19th, Aaron Haynes. Aaron, I was so happy when I started looking at these poll numbers, and I knew that you were available to talk about them because there is so much to dig into here. I want to start on the return to traditional gender roles. It's a gap that we see between men and women, but then there's also a gap between political party affiliations and generations. What can you tell us about these numbers? We've seen these kinds of gender gaps reflected in other recent polls, but this one was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, listen, Allie, thanks so much for highlighting the poll where folks can visit 19thnews.org to really see the results and read our stories unpacking this. But yeah, gender roles was just among the issues that we asked about for the first time this year. This is the fourth time that we've done this poll with SurveyMonkey. And as you said, you had about half of Americans thinking that we should be worried about the impact of falling birth rates, for example, with more men worried about that than women. And, 31% say society would be better off if young people prioritized having a family, right, before professional accomplishments or other goals. But there are gender gaps and there are partisan gaps in those numbers. Let me just say 39% of men versus 24% of women believe that. And then 15% of Democrats. 15% of Democrats compared to 51% of Republicans say society would be better off if young people kind of prioritized having families before those professional accomplishments. And so, what does that mean? How is that showing up in their politics? How is that showing up in the choices that they're making every single day?
I also think that there's something that reminded me of when I was looking at a recent NBC News poll that we did that showed that Harris supporters had a much lower prioritization of having kids and starting a family, specifically female Harris supporters, compared to men overall in that poll who prioritized that much more highly. I thought that this was just another fascinating data point that can potentially explain the political as well as societal divide that's.
I want to pause right here. Half of which, because I was doing something in the background and I didn't get to listen. I did watch this already, so that part. But the other half of which is to emphasize this. Society is built off of pillars, Jenga blocks, if you will, right? The promotion of family, children, man, woman, allows for everyone to be content and discontent at the same time. It allows for all of us to get a bit of what we want, a lot of what we need, all at the same time. The children, the women, the men. It's at the foundation, family, of your society, right? The nuclear family or the family, particularly in this system, the family is at the foundation of your smaller network, your community, and your society, your nation. I would argue the men appreciate that. What is at the foundation of all of this? What makes this possible? Where we have women who, if they are not sociologists, maybe, demographers, they don't fully appreciate the pillars that hold up a society and that make their lives possible. The incentives that allow for fully half of the human race, half of the US population, to get up and do so much because men overproduce, do so much that the extras then spill on to the least of us. When you start removing the incentives from why men do what they do, the XY chromosome, not only not replacing it, well, sometimes not replacing it, in other times say, well, well, why do you want pepperoni pizza? What about cheese? I want pepperoni pizza. What about tacos? I don't want tacos. What about hot dogs? I don't want hot dogs. Hamburgers? A calzone? Sushi? Tilapia? Alligator? Shark? No. Crab? No. Shrimp? No. I want pepperoni pizza. What we have here, I would argue, is the men, because the majority of men will not be necessarily antagonistic to women. They won't be violent to women. They won't be insulting to women. What they will do is take their ball and go home. And that will crash your Western civilization. It's already happening. You're not going to change the appetite of the men. If you de-incentivize the men, the women will feel it. You will have maybe at most 20, early 20%, maybe 22% or such of women who may be able to buffer themselves through, funny enough, their relationships with men on that level. Definitely the top 5% and 1%, those women will be okay. The masses of everyday women will feel. They will feel that cold embrace of your average man pulling back and removing themselves from this society, doing the bare minimum, right? As some of the Chinese citizens would say, laying flat. And we have women who are feeling that. In our society, we speak about lonely men and single men and men who are not attached, primarily to women. And because those men are not attached to women, oftentimes they're not attached to community. And we speak about how dangerous that is. And we hyper focus on that as a way to shame the men, shame the older men into shaming the younger men, into doing for society, doing for community, even if they're not attached to women. As a matter of fact, especially when they're not attached to women. Meanwhile, we also emphasize that the women are doing okay. They're perfectly okay. The women are perfect. We don't fear the women. The women are lonely. As a matter of fact, the women love being single. They love not being attached because men are the burden. Remember, men are not likable. Men haven't developed personality, and the men are the burden. So the women are perfectly okay with being single and unattached to men. And I don't know how true that actually is.
My grandma, she asked me today, she was like, you don't have any friends or a boyfriend, anybody to talk to? Like, where do you go when you're not home? And I was like, I buy myself food and I just sit on a park bench and I draw. That's what I do. Anytime I go outside, That's all I do if I don't go to school. Because I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't even know why I pay my phone bill because nobody calls or texts me. Only person I talk to is my therapist. That's it. Nobody else talks to me. I always hate when people when you express yourself and then people are like, oh, just focus on yourself, love you. And it's like, people need people. And if you never have anybody and you never have, that's depressing and it makes you feel really bad. I always feel bad, when I go to school because people get to eat lunch with their boyfriends and with their friend groups. And I have to sit at lunch and just cry. And I've been doing that since I was in elementary school. And now I'm in college. Every single day. I used to have to eat lunch in the bathroom when I was in elementary school because I was getting bullied so bad. And when I was in high school, I had friends briefly and they stopped talking to me one day.
Okay. So assuming this young lady doesn't have any particular mental condition or issues, assuming she's not somehow on the spectrum, she's not an ugly girl. Goddamn, take the goddamn septum ring off. Jesus Christ, for the love of God. Okay, fine. The loneliness is killing her. She's not the only one. Once again, our society tells us the men are a problem and a burden, and the women are perfectly okay with being single and alone because the men are burdens. And if the men, especially if the men are not providing the resources opulently, then there's no reason to be attached to them, right? Meanwhile, women like this suffer. She said she eats lunch alone on a park bench. Lunch or dinner, my apologies. Huh. While women like her suffer in silence often, the women that we hear from more often are the loud, obnoxious ones, like this.
All women from all ages and all races realizing that marriage is bullshit and just an excuse for men to suck the life force out your ass, that makes me feel good. I love that.
Oh, and this.
The only time having a boyfriend is worth it is when he is able to fully support you and pay all your bills. I said it, and I'll say it again. The only time a man who is your boyfriend, he's not your husband, if you're gonna be a girlfriend to someone, he needs to be paying all your bills. Otherwise, why is he there? What is his purpose? If he's not, he's just a boyfriend. Meaning if he leaves you, and a boyfriend is not a legal title. If he leaves you and promises you marriage, leaves you with nothing, you get nothing. But if he's paying all your bills, you're able to save money, you're able to invest into businesses that you want to do. If he leaves you, you're leaving with something else at the end of it.
I guess we're throwing love out the window. The only time having a girlfriend is worth it is if she's giving you bedroom fun whenever you want, cooking, cleaning, and shutting up, and knows how to be a man's peace and not a burden.
Huh. Once again, I like playing these clips because I like reminding us that you have the outlier women, you have these talking head, these pundits, these researchers, these academics, usually elite, highly educated. They're doing a whole lot of talking, and they're posturing and positioning women as the women got it all figured out. They're good. They worked on themselves. They seek therapy. They're good. They're just waiting for the right man. Right? The men are the problem. The men want to, stick to, cling on to old archaic rules and norms. They don't want to get up with the times. The women are up with the times. Now, what does up with the times mean? Some mixture, some a la carte version of patriarchy by feminist specifications. Some pick and choose patriarchy, pick and choose feminism. I'll get a little bit of that, and I have a little bit of this. Oh no, I don't want that part of feminism. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, but I want that part of patriarchy. Oh, but I don't want that part of patriarchy. Oh, I want that part of feminism. Oh, but I don't want that part of feminism. Yeah. There's a cost to this, right? There's a cost to this. You have our society where a sizable number, a nice chunk of folks are saying, no, go start your career first, go do that first. Now, funny enough, many women are doing that. They're running right up on the biological clock. Geriatric pregnancy at 35 and above. Now we want the doctors to change the term geriatric pregnancy because it's offensive to women. Oh boy. And we tell the women to go to school, get their education, get into their careers, invest enough time and energy into their careers so that they're viable and good employees and whatnot. Perfectly okay. All right. And this is great for essentially old white capitalist men. Okay, perfect. And then these women run right into the wall, once again, of geriatric pregnancy. They run right into the wall of what men truly desire, which tends to be younger, more viable women, right? And so we demand that the men change their appetite. This is what happens when you don't respect the pillars that created your society in the first place, the pillars that maintain your society. This is also what happens when you don't respect, as a matter of fact, you look disgustingly at, you look smugly at the desires of the men, the average man. This is how we get here. The young ladies crying, loneliness, no friends, no companions, no anything. Meanwhile, we have news pundits smugly speaking about how well the women are doing in comparison to the men, right? But of course, there's a cost to this. There's a societal cost, right? I want to emphasize that. The men appreciate the pillars because oftentimes the men are the ones who built the pillars. There was no way that we were going to remove the men from a particular role and the women weren't going to feel that. And so what you have are particular women feeling that they're going through it, particularly Black women, some Latina women, working class white women, maybe even some poor and maybe even some working class Asian women. Now, once again, because the outliers are doing too much talking, elite, highly educated women are less likely to have to feel this. The only thing they go through is attempting to be with quote unquote equally yoked men. Get their hypergamy on their level. Huh? So let's play this again. I actually sped it up a little bit. So we're gonna play this again, and hopefully Mr. Z can make it through this without interrupting and starting all over. Okay, here we go.
The majority of men in America want a return to traditional gender roles, but most women aren't so sure. That's just one finding from a brand new poll from the nonprofit news publication The 19th, along with SurveyMonkey. We're the first folks to get a look at this, and the study also takes a look at Americans' views on toxic masculinity, as well as abortion access and stay-at-home parenting. There's a lot to dig into here with editor-at-large for The 19th, Aaron Haynes. Aaron, I was so happy when I started looking at these poll numbers, and I knew that you were available to talk about them because there is so much to dig into here. I want to start on the return to traditional gender roles. It's a gap that we see between men and women, but then there's also a gap between political party affiliations and generations. What can you tell us about these numbers? We've seen these kinds of gender gaps reflected in other recent polls, but this one was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, listen, Allie, thanks so much for highlighting the poll where folks can visit 19thnews.org to really see the results and read our stories unpacking this. But yeah, gender roles was just among the issues that we asked about for the first time this year. This is the fourth time that we've done this poll with SurveyMonkey. And as you said, you had about half of Americans thinking that we should be worried about the impact of falling birth rates, for example, with more men worried about that than women. And, 31% say society would be better off if young people prioritized having a family, right, before professional accomplishments or other goals. But there are gender gaps and there are partisan gaps in those numbers. Let me just say 39% of men versus 24% of women believe that. And then 15% of Democrats. 15% of Democrats compared to 51% of Republicans say society would be better off if young people kind of prioritized having families before those professional accomplishments. And so, what does that mean? How is that showing up in their politics? How is that showing up in the choices that they're making every single day?
I also think that there's something that reminded me of when I was looking at a recent NBC News poll that we did that showed that Harris supporters had a much lower prioritization of having kids and starting a family, specifically female Harris supporters, compared to men overall in that poll who prioritized that much more highly. I thought that this was just another fascinating data point that can potentially explain the political as well as societal divide that's happening right now between young men and young women. I think the other thing that I was struck by was that your poll also looked at Americans' views towards toxic masculinity. Most of them overall, 62% of Americans agreed that it's a problem, but there was a gender gap here as well. 71% of women agreed that toxic masculinity was a problem compared to only 53% of men. And generationally, as you looked younger, more people, more women specifically, saw toxic masculinity as a problem. And I feel like that shows up in our politics as well.
Yeah, but I do think it is notable that over half, 53% of men did say that toxic masculinity is a problem for our society. Look, this is something that the 19th covered, during the campaign and also as we have, we're 8 months into this administration and we're seeing how some of this particular brand of masculinity, right, that we're seeing playing out across the Trump administration, how is that playing into, how is that translating into not just rhetoric, but also policy, right? So if this is a concern for 7 in 10 Americans, what are they prepared to do? How are they prepared to act on that? How are they maybe going to push back on that, either, in society or even at the ballot box?
Yeah, and I do think that there's, in this larger conversation of toxic masculinity and the way that the so-called manosphere manifests in politics, there's almost this backlash to more women and more people broadly recognizing the privilege that comes along with being male in a society like ours. I think that that's definitely showing up in politics too. But then the poll also does poll an issue that is both gender and also overtly political, and that's on abortion access. You say that nearly 2/3 think abortion should be legal in all or most cases. That tracks actually with where Gallup polling has shown this to be in the past. But very small numbers think the government should restrict use of IVF, hormonal birth control, emergency contraception. That's also consistent with polling on the issue. But what do you think about how Democrats can use polling like this to layer onto a platform that's very much up for debate right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, Democrats obviously talked a lot about abortion, not only in the last midterm election, where, as we look ahead to another midterm, but also in the last presidential election. But also, they talked about the economy, right? The economy continues to be the #1 issue. And thinking about reproductive care, reproductive access, not just as a health issue, but also as an economic issue. We have also in our poll many Americans being worried about their ability to pay the bills, right? And so, the decision to have a family or not, that is absolutely one of the things that goes into it. People who are worried about their cost of living, having a family, starting a family, that definitely is also an economic issue. And so I think all those things maybe are tied up together, and we could see those two things being intertwined and playing out in our politics as well.
You and I have talked about the way that reproductive health care is actually an economic issue, and we're not the only ones. That was former Vice President Kamala Harris who often made that point. And you actually spent some time with her last night on the opening stop of her multi-state book tour. Talk a little bit more about that conversation, whether or not you see this as an end or a new beginning for her political career.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, 107 Days is the book that finally has her, in her own words, kind of recounting her historic, unprecedented campaign for president. Obviously was unsuccessful in that, but, she unpacks kind of the lessons learned and gives people a behind the scenes. And this was really her first time in front of a crowd to discuss that. The crowd was super energetic, and she really seemed to feed off of that. And so she said this 15-city book tour, which kicked off in New York last night, is an opportunity to listen to people, to hear where she is and what she's thinking, but also how the American people are thinking and what they think the fight is going to look like going from here. So really interesting, and I'm really interested to see how this tour continues and what she learns from it and what she might do as a result of it.
Yeah, you've covered her for such a long time. You and I are both politics reporters. Anytime we hear that a politician is out in the country listening, you always wonder, all right, what are you listening for? What do you need to hear to make the next step in your political career? I know you'll be tracking it, whatever it is. Editor-at-large for the 19th, Aaron Haynes. Always love having you. Great to see you.
All right. So the divergence of men and women politically based on concepts of family, baby deletion, huh? This is going to cost. If the men are the ones who tend to overproduce, and we have a society that is increasingly, as I said earlier, removing the incentives to overproduce, removing the incentives to produce, period, for the masses of men. We're not speaking about the elite that we're going to be okay anyway. You have to appreciate your average woman is going to feel that. Number one. Number two, there is a cost to women's autonomy, right? There's a cost to that. Um, there's an article I'm working through it, and I might cover it in a day, well, a couple of days, that speaks on, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, written by a woman, that many women, well, or better yet, these women are saying patriarchy protects women better than feminism. Uh, yeah, when you are autonomous, when you have this autonomy, no one owes you protection. Hopefully for you, if something happens, it happens in front of the authorities, the cops, and the cops decide to intervene. By the way, they're not obligated. Check your local laws. For all of us that know about the train incident in New York and the man taking it to court and the court saying, yeah, by the way, the cops are not obligated to protect you. Oops. That's a common misnomer. Yikes. Huh? With that, autonomy has a price. It has a cost. It, I'll finish the article. We'll go over it. So yes, patriarchy protects women, and feminism doesn't, because feminism seeks, if we take it at its word, huh, questionable, the autonomy of women to not be obligated to clan, to man. Ooh, look at Z Ramen. To family, to community, to anyone, to anything. Nothing wrong with that. With that, no one is obligated to you. You don't have to play a role. With that, no one has to play a role considering you in what benefits you. Huh? The divergence of men and women is what happens when you have hyper individuality, and what happens when you live in a quote unquote advanced society where the folks that are sitting or standing on the shoulders of greats and on the shoulders of other greats, think of human beings, gods, and titans, you don't really appreciate how you got here, right? You don't really appreciate that. And what we're dealing with a number of women is they want their individuality, they want their autonomy, they want their freedom, they want their their liberty, and they want their negative liberty, without appreciating what all of that is built off of. Once again, the social contract. And what men are saying, or better yet, maybe not so much saying, but showing, is that there's a cost to not participating in the social contract.
You will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. With any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract.
There has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract. There's a reason why I picked this clip from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was not speaking about men and women. He's speaking about COVID-19. Why does Mr. Z often pick things that have nothing to do with men and women to speak on men and women? Because once we start speaking about men and women, people start dancing. All the logic goes out the window. We start shaming men. Oops. We start doing 1 foot in and 1 foot out on what a real man should be, what passes we should give women. Shout out to what, Ryan Clark? Men have been so awful. That's why you believe in the double standard of women shouldn't strike men, but if they do strike men, you kind of understand, and men have been so awful, so you don't really believe in men striking women back. I get it. Huh? That is why Mr. Z often uses these things that have nothing to do with men and women to emphasize what this is. Now let's play the clips back to back. What Mr. Z often speaks on or plays when we speak on the social contract and what happens when you don't fill your bargain or your end of the deal concerning the social contract, or when you decide to tear the social contract, burn the social contract. What happens?
You will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. With any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad.
That's not fair. That's not fair. That is not fair.
Perfectly fair. You're not filling in your end of the social contract. You tore the social contract. You burned the social contract. You don't want to adhere to the social contract. There's a cost to that, Mr. Z Rahman. So not only do we have this clip from MSNBC, I think it was, right? Once again, fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. We have another clip. In this one, once again, we're going to make sure to emphasize that many of these characters we do not agree with. With that, we are painted oftentimes with a very, very broad brush that includes many of us with these characters. And so Mr. Z does feel compelled to respond to this because of that. Here we go.
These men are middle-aged and they feel like they can't argue with women their own age. They don't ever bring academics onto their podcast. They always bring on like barely out of their teens or actually in their teens OnlyFans models. And they have felt left behind by women their own age. And now they're terrified other men are also going to leave them behind. So what they're really doing is trying to keep all these other men and boys down with them in the trenches. And it's like, no, let them go, man. Like, it's your problem if you got, don't gaslight everyone into thinking you're normal.
Are you quiet?
Look,
strong
we're
woman.
Not asking
I thought you were a strong woman.
I hope you guys have a really good day. I'm leaving.
Hold on.
You don't look happy. Like, why are you like screaming on your podcast? There's pills for that. Like, there's go talk to a person in an office. Like, there's therapy for that. But instead, no, let's normalize the subjugation of women because we're telling men that they're too inept to grow. I believe men can grow. I've seen men grow. Like I said, I've grown to look up to many men in my life. I believe in men. And the people who tell you women have to be down, like brought down, don't believe in you, don't like you, and are very, very dangerous.
I've watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about.
Okay, so we've seen that clip of the dude that speaks to Myron about how he used to follow Myron and now he's given his life to God and he doesn't believe in that anyway. Okay, cool. We're not endorsing Myron. We're not endorsing whatever his name is, Andrew, whatever the hell his name is, that was mocking and whatnot with the younger white women. With that, the subjugation of women, number one, and the men being too inept to grow. Appreciate her smug delivery when she was speaking. Appreciate the word inept. Ooh, right? Mr. Z is not an admirer of Myron. I actually, quite frankly, dislike Myron a lot. With that, you lied. Myron does not only have OnlyFans models on his show. He doesn't only have teenage girls on his show. You didn't have to say that to make your point. And it's a lie. He has had professional women, older women, middle-aged women of various races and backgrounds and ethnicities on his show. And there's a constant there. The constant is, just like Kevin Samuels, just like any one of these matchmaking shows, are women. Oh, Z, you about to go there. Yeah, we connected the dots today for those of these folks that want to play obtuse. Are women seeing men as nothing more than a walking wallet and overglorified guard dog? Regardless of her station in life, regardless of her delivery, regardless of what words she chooses to use, regardless of how large her vocabulary is, regardless of her delivery, I would love to have a conversation with this lady. UK, South Asian looking lady, whatever you are. Oh, I would love to have a conversation with her. I could use this tone right here the entire conversation. As a matter of fact, I can speak slower. I can speak like this the entire conversation. I don't have to be loud. I don't have to be irate. I can even turn down the smug in my voice. I can lower the bass in my voice. Madam, if you're speaking about those of us in the Black manosphere, we have many of us that can speak like this the entire conversation, still get our point across, and say the men said we're not going. Let's define what Z means and what many of us mean by the men are not going. The men are saying, you have not moved the women. Z says this often. People like you, assuming that you don't know any better and Mr. Z thinks you do know better, like to have surface level conversation with the masses of women that allows for them not to be honest with what they expect from men, the financial requirements, and what parts of patriarchy they want to uphold, what parts of patriarchy they demand that men still play. Okay, fine. Once we enter that realm, men now get to decide what parts of women have to play. What part of feminine women have to play. This is when we start having people like you, both men and women, say that's not fair. That is sexist. That is misogynistic. That's patriarchal. The dance between men and women that has been going on for ages, millennia, it won't stop because of people like you. I want to emphasize this. The second women start having a financial requirement on manhood, uh-oh, a height requirement on manhood, yikes. a demeanor and charisma requirement on manhood. Oh, what you can lift your physique standard on manhood. Ah, symmetrical facial features on manhood. Ugh. Now we're in the dance, and there's no amount of putting your thumb on the scale for these women that's going to put them in the position to get far more out of this dance than the men do, particularly the desirable men. Women like you, people like you, have been engaging in this for decades. And the marriage rate is in the basement. So is the birth rate. And that's affecting your society. See, women like you are perfectly okay with that. If we could sequester off all of the negativity that comes with that to men, in our case in America, particularly to men of color, primarily black men. Unfortunately, that's not how this works for women. And so the masses of women, definitely in the bottom 80%, bottom 75%, bottom 70%, will feel this. Why does he mention marriage so much concerning this conversation? Because that's where stability is. That's still where stability is. What will not be allowed to happen is that men don't get to enjoy any of the gendered pleasures while still being obligated to play the patriarchal role, once again, without the gendered pleasures, while women get to pick and choose which part of feminism and which part of patriarchy, a la carte feminism, a la carte patriarchy, patriarchy by feminist specifications, women want to play. You playing Myron, you playing Andrew, I think that's his name, right? The white guy. And you being smug in delivery, and you saying that these men are inept, and you saying there's pills for that. It sounds good. It's funny. You're snarky. Yay. How does this benefit the masses of women? Once again, Black and Latina women who never marry are the least wealthy in the US. By the way, that's Black and Latina women, childless Black women in particular. So childless Black women who never marry have the least amount of wealth in America. Miss UK South Asian woman, because you look South Asian. Can you tell me, how does your rhetoric benefit Black women? How does it even benefit Black women in the UK, let alone Black women in America? I would love to know. Inquiring minds would like to know. Oh, look, the average man spends $5,000 to $12,000 more per year when in relationship. Well, will you look at that? Once again, Miss UK South Asian woman, how does your rhetoric benefit the average woman? I bet you're an outlier. You're doing too much talking. Say your quote again, Z, the outliers are doing too much talking. And there you go. Oh, look at this. A disproportionate number of Black women are kidless as they age. Advocates say they deserve, a social safety net too. Miss UK South Asian woman. Z, you gonna ask it again? Z, gonna ask it again. How does your rhetoric benefit these women? I would like to know. Inquiring minds would like to know. Huh? Yikes. It sounds good, sounds empowering, and here we are. All the snark, the smug. I'm gonna play the clip for y'all that just entered. It sounds good. You play Myron, of all people. This is why I say I would love to have a conversation with a woman like this. I would love to have a conversation with a woman like this. State your case, state how this benefits women. Fine, we'll take men off the table because y'all don't care about them anyway. Fine. How does this benefit women? Waiting. Huh? Continuing.
These men are middle-aged and they feel like they can't argue with women their own age. They don't ever bring academics onto their podcast. They always bring on like barely out of their teens or actually in their teens OnlyFans models. And they have felt left behind by women their own age. And now they're terrified other men are also going to leave them behind. So what they're really doing is trying to keep all these other men and boys down with them in the trenches. And it's like, no, let them go, man. Like, it's your problem if don't gaslight everyone into thinking you're normal.
Are you quiet?
Look,
strong
we're
woman.
not asking
I thought you were a strong
look,
woman.
I hope you guys have a really good day. I'm leaving.
Hold on.
You don't look happy. Like, why are you like screaming on your podcast? There's pills for that. Like, go talk to a person in an office. Like, there's therapy for that. But instead, no, let's normalize.
We'll play this again. And this is why Mr. Z said Mr. Z can speak like this. Mr. Z can speak like this and have this delivery for 10, 20, 30 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hours. We can speak at this tone. So, madam, you don't have to worry about veins in Mr. Z's neck and forehead and being loud or even necessarily being aggressive. Huh? You don't have to worry about being attacked, insulted. I can engage in the banter. Yeah. You know, just as you said, Myron brings on teenage women, OnlyFans, to essentially dunk on them. Mr. Z is saying, women like you, just like you're speaking to the young men, do that. You speak to the young men to try to prove your point. Huh? Yikes. Continuing.
These men are middle-aged and they feel like they can't argue with women their own age. They don't ever bring academics onto their podcast. They always bring on like barely out of their teens or actually in their teens OnlyFans models. And they have felt left behind by women their own age. And now they're terrified other men are also going to leave them behind. So what they're really doing is trying to keep all these other men and boys down with them in the trenches. And it's like, no, let them go, man. Like, it's your problem if don't gaslight everyone into thinking you're normal.
Are you quiet?
Look,
strong
we're
woman.
not asking
I thought you were a strong
look,
woman.
I hope you guys have a really good day. I'm leaving.
Hold on.
You don't look happy. Like, why are you like screaming on your podcast? There's pills for that. Like, go talk to a person in an office. Like, there's therapy for that. But instead, no, let's normalize the subjugation of women because we're telling men that they're too inept to grow. I believe men can grow. I've seen men grow. Like I said, I've grown to look up to many men in my life. I believe in men. And the people who tell you women have to be down, like brought down, don't believe in you, don't like you, and are very, very dangerous.
I've watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about a year and a half. So much so that I bought into a lot of the things that you said. And for about 2 years, it led me astray and significantly damaged my personal life, including relationships.
How did it lead you astray?
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did. And it significantly damaged my life. My concern is what you're saying to men leads them astray because I'm a walking example of it.
So Mr. Z doesn't say what Myron says. Many of us in the Black manosphere don't say this. Almost all of us don't say that, number one. Number two, what we do here is provide young men with a dose of reality, not the fuzzy Disney fairy tale stories. We're honest with them on how men judge them. We're honest with them, with how women judge them, right? Not what women say, but what women do. Huh? Not what women say, but who women screw. Ooh, goddamn. Huh? Emphasize that again, Z. who women actually find attractive. Right? As Dr. Richard Reeves would say, preferences and revealed preferences. What women may say when being polled, there's a pun in there, and what actually happens, who they actually choose or who they allow to choose upon them, right? We're honest with men over here in ways that might seem uncomfortable to the mainstream and to polite society. We get men laid over here. We get men married over here. Once again, we're honest with men over here. We're honest with young men over here in ways that polite society would find grating, in ways that polite society would find a bit jarring. And that's okay. The question is it inaccurate though? Is it factually accurate or not? Do women care about men's resources or don't they? Uh-oh. Do women put far more do women care about men's resources more than men care about women's resources? Do men care, excuse me, say that other way. Do women care about men's status more than men care about women's status? Uh-oh. These are the questions that young men come to us with because your clergy, church, mosque, temple are not being honest with men. Your female teachers, ooh, and academics, yikes, aren't being honest with men. Your white knights and liars and simps aren't being honest with men. And we are. If you want to know why the men keep coming over here, why the young men keep coming over here, it's because they're seeking the truth. They want female companionship. They want vagina in their life. They want romance. They want intimacy. And for many, many men, young men, what they see is the society lying to them about how you get that. Huh? There are plenty of counter narratives. My apologies, y'all, for the rattling. There's plenty counter train tracks. There's plenty counter narratives to Z's channel and to the Black manosphere, but yet we're still growing. Men and some women still listen. Many participate, some listen in the clouds. You want to know why? Because there's something missing in your narrative. There's something missing in the way folks like you speak, what you say, and what men and women are actually encountering when dating. What men are encountering when dating. What men are encountering with women. Huh? No one wants to be the one. No man wants to be the one to take a woman on a nice date, nice first date, nice second date. And you drop her back home, and back home is the man that doesn't have to spend really any money, but he's Mr. Splackavelli. Huh? And y'all gives you a second, y'all talk amongst yourselves. And we're back. Hopefully you guys can still hear me and I'm coming in clear. You know, these folks insult men to their face every day by lying to men every day. Huh? Quite frankly, women don't earn enough. Your average woman doesn't earn enough for this autonomy. The average woman doesn't earn enough to not have to consider what men think, what men like, who men are. Particularly for us in the Black community, the average Black woman doesn't earn enough. And quite frankly, the society is no longer going to be able to subsidize her enough for her not to care enough. And so we're here now. And while we have these pundits, talking heads, contributors, both on news and just on radio stations and podcasts and different spaces, while we have these outlier women waxing poetic about sexist, misogynistic, patriarchal, or aspiring patriarchal men, and the women who are perfectly okay in their solitude, there's the honesty that the average woman's actually not.
My grandma, she asked me today, she was like, you don't have any friends or a boyfriend, anybody to talk to? Like, where do you go when you're not home? And I was like, I buy myself food and I just sit on a park bench and I draw. That's what I do. Anytime I go outside, that's all I do if I don't go to school. Because I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't even know why I pay my phone bill because nobody calls or texts me. Only person I talk to is my therapist. That's it. Nobody else talks to me. I always hate when people when you express yourself and then people are like, oh, just focus on yourself, love you. And it's like, people need people. And if you never have anybody and you never have, that's depressing and it makes you feel really bad. I always feel bad, when I go to school because people get to eat lunch with their boyfriends and with their friend groups, and I have to sit at lunch and just cry. And I've been doing that since I was in elementary school, and now I'm in college. Every single day, I used to have to eat lunch in the bathroom when I was in elementary school because I was getting bullied so bad. And when I was in high school, I had friends briefly and they stopped talking to me one day.
Absolutely devastating. I want to emphasize this. She's not the first that we've seen. I actually have another clip. I couldn't find it in time. Where the women keep telling you, and I want to emphasize this, something that us men aren't necessarily told, and we're definitely not told this in these words. Love on yourself. Now, there's a pun in there. There's some real pun in there. There's some funny in there, I know. Huh? With that, women, particularly Black women, are encouraged to love on themselves and to find peace in themselves when single. And to show a brave face. And if you grew up in the Black community concerning Black women, if you grew up in the Black community as a Black man around Black women, you fully appreciate that what they're really being told is to put on the poker face. Don't let society see you sweat. Ooh, Z, you about to say it. Don't let Black men see you sweat. Bid yourself up to the moon. And if loneliness is the cost, so be it. The young lady mentioned seeing women with their boyfriend. She's telling you what her real issue is. Huh? She said she's keep on being encouraged to love on herself. We know that's not men telling her that. That's not men, that's not young men. We know who's telling her that. Huh? See, this is the other side of women's autonomy. It's not simply physical protection. It's mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, social, social, social. It's not simply going to be men that suffer from this supposed loneliness epidemic. You're going to find women who are casualties of this also. And our society is going to minimize it, if even acknowledge it in the first place. Meanwhile, women like this have to suffer. You see it with the Asian community, because this society likes to weaponize the quote unquote model minority against black folks. There are plenty of Asians, some South Asians, a nice chunk of East Asians who suffer. They're in poverty, they're working class, they're working poor, and our society turns a blind eye to them in their struggles. Why? Because we need the Asian model minority myth. Because we need to say, hey, look, we're not racist, we're not anti-black. That's not how did the Asian make it? Look, the East Asian, that family just came here 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Look how well they're doing. And so we have to sacrifice those of you who are working poor. We have to sacrifice you in the conversation, because we need the narrative to be, hey, we're not racist. If we were racist, how do you explain these Asians? Women, average women, everyday women, 80% of y'all, 85% of y'all, you're sacrificed on the altar of, look, feminism perfectly okay with on the women. We love it. Nothing to see here. We love our autonomy. It doesn't cost us anything. It's beautiful. The men are the ones who don't want to get up with the times. They're the ones who are suffering because they want to hold on to old patriarchal norms and rules. The women, on the other hand, we're perfectly okay. Nothing to see here. Huh? So let's pause right there for a second, because we have some almost hour old, better yet, hour old super chats that we got to read. And my apologies, Big Mo. I got you, KMS. We're gonna read these and let's get through it. And we'll cover what we have to cover next. Big Mo says the nuclear family is to society like the cell is to the human body. Cells dysfunctioning is greater, or he puts the arrow, actually, I thought it was a greater sound. Sorry. Cells dysfunctioning, the cancer created, threatening the life of the human. So threatening the life of the organism, threatening the life, in this case, of society. So the nuclear family, in this case, being the cell, and a dysfunctioning cell, so a dysfunctioning nuclear family, a dysfunctioning family model. I get what you're saying. If that's dysfunctioning, that threatens the life or the organism, in this case, your society. You know, BGS says this often, and when you really think about it, he's right. The Africana kinship network that you see black women, many black women, and some non-black women subscribe to, the idea of the tribe, where the woman may or may not decide to stay with whatever individual man or whoever she was with to produce these children, but the tribe is so strong and robust, and the connections are so strong that they help to support her and raise the children. We just don't live in that society. Okay, fine. And so the women have said, well, if it's going to be a struggle to have these children and to raise them how I like, with or without the man, then I just won't have the children. And the men are saying, okay, fine. Well, if you won't have our children, and if you're going to be a headache defined by the men, the women don't have a say, oops, sorry, then that's okay. Then no reason to overproduce then. Who are we overproducing for? The non-existent children? Or the woman who says she's not going to play her role? What role? It's too demeaning. It's sexist. It's patriarchal. It's misogynistic. Shout out to you, Dr. Richard Reeves. Birth rate in America is at 1.6 and declining rapidly. Uh-oh. Huh? Dr. Richard Reeves said, this is what men do. They overproduce. Overproduce for whom, Mr. Richard Reeves? Dr. Richard Reeves? For who? For the antagonistic, mean, rude, snarky, smug women? Or for the non-existent children? Overproduce for who? Overproduce for who? Overproduce for the women who don't want to have children when they're perfectly capable in their 20s, maybe even their early 30s, and wait until they have one egg left in their goddamn mid 40s to hurry up and couple with a man, to have the child, and then to leave that man anyway within 5 years if you're black, within 8 to 10 years if you're not black in America? Overproduce for who? Huh? Who exactly are men overproducing for? For the nation that treats their bodies like cannon fodder, both in the factory and in the military? Ooh, goddamn, Z, you going too far with that one. Overproduce for who? For the women who are not even taking care of other women? For the women who are gender warring with men so much that they're willing to sacrifice the sanity, the security, the livelihood, the happiness of other women for their gender war? The men are supposed to overproduce for them? Oh, the men are supposed to overproduce for elite asshole women, white, black, Latina, Asian, and otherwise, who sit in penthouses and expensive condos in suburbs all around America, pushing their feminist crap onto the masses of us. The men are supposed to overproduce for them while they're secure. Who are the men supposed to overproduce for? Oh, the men are supposed to overproduce for the same people, women, with an ideology that says that the men are nothing but big dumb oafs, big dumb jocks, who are dumb, slow, and are only here to be cannon fodder. That's what the men are supposed to overproduce for? Who are the men supposed to overproduce for? The children that got deleted in the woman's belly? Who? The old, mainly white politicians all around the country who could barely walk or speak. The men are supposed to overproduce for who exactly? The children that, if they do exist, don't belong to these men? Who? Overproduce for who exactly? Or for the elites that look down on those same men. For the elites that have these men urinating in bottles. Uh-oh. Oh, wait. Overproduce for the elites who are more worried about their stocks and their stock options and will fire these men or lay them off at the drop of a hat. Huh? Who are the men overproducing for? Big Mo, the family being essentially, as you're saying, the foundation of all of this, the nuclear family in particular. And folks trying to piecemeal some new age while keeping old family models. It's fascinating watching these folks try to pick and choose which parts of this they want to maintain, which parts of it they want to change, while offering the men nothing. You're offering the men some nebulous concept of community where they don't dominate. Okay, fine. There's not an assumption that the men should be in leadership positions. Okay, fine. With that, the men will still be the primary victims of violence from men and women. The men will be the primary protectors overwhelmingly. How does this benefit men at all? Mr. Z would say we wonder why the men don't participate, but we're not actually wondering why. We could actually care less as a society. Many of us already know why. We're just now just trying to shame them into doing it because. We don't actually wonder why. We know why. We're just angry that they won't do it because. And once again, Big Mo, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Continuing. And KMS says, and thank you for the super chat. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. That still feel weird. I'm gonna be saying that for a while. We're gonna get over it eventually. KMS says, the growing indifference and apathy of men can directly correlate with the simplicity of demands not being met, compounded by the increasing complexity of demands by women. Quote, you want a palace but can't fix me a sandwich. End quote. Yes. Right? Yes. What KMS just described to y'all was patriarchy by feminist specifications. Right? The gendered pleasures of being a woman and being able to tap into ideas of femininity that allow for you to be a woman of leisure, right? A woman of leisure, a kept woman, while also engaging in modern femininity, which is the man who allowed for you to be this woman of leisure, a kept woman, does not deserve something as simple as a sandwich. Definitely not made by your hands, at least. So once again, the woman gets to enjoy the gendered pleasure of being a kept woman while not participating in her side of the bargain, the social contract, of providing said man who provided her with said life of leisure with something as simple as a sandwich. Now, how does that look in a more modern era, modern context? Men still earn more than women. Okay, fine. What that means in a modern context is that the men that still earn more than women are now being told and encouraged by our society, they're being encouraged to understand that, A, modern women don't have to adhere to anything that you sexist, misogynistic pig men desire. They don't have to be disciplined with their diet. They don't have to be disciplined with their comportment. They don't have to be disciplined with how they speak, both as an individual woman or as groups of women. Okay, fine. But you as a man, you still should come to her aid when she's in need or want. You still should consider her, and if she has children, which may or may not be yours, you should generally be a pleasant person around her, concerning her. You should be likable, charismatic, develop personality, whatever that means concerning this individual woman or women in aggregate. And what do you get for that? The presence of women in your space. And even that's debatable. Once again, patriarchy by feminist specifications. We still demand gentlemanly behavior from you. Meanwhile, she get to do whatever she want to do. Ooh, goddamn, Z Robin. Huh? Be a gentleman, open doors. Be a gentleman. You see her struggling. She needs a bit of assistance. Help her put that groceries in her trunk. Help her with those groceries. Help her put that luggage in the overhead bin in the airplane. Huh? Help her lift that TV to the second, third floor in that apartment. Huh? Help her if she's being harassed or violated by another man. Huh? Help her if you see her on the side of the road with any type of car issues. What do you get for that? Being a good Samaritan, being a good man. That's if it's even acknowledged. What you get is the psychic and psychological benefits of knowing that you're a good person. That's what you get. Have fun with selling this to men. Have fun with selling this to our boys. Whoever you are, UK, South Asian lady, it's easy to pick on Myron. It's easy. He's a goofy. What I just described to you is why young men listen to Myron. Ooh, goddamn. Huh? That's what I just described to you. Why young men listen to the whatever podcasts. Why young men listen to Mr. Z. You can't tell them what they get for participating in this weirdo stuff. As KMS says, you want a palace but can't fix me a sandwich. The women never stopped wanting a lifestyle. We saw that with Courtney Ryan a couple years ago when she interviewed those young women in their 20s, early 30s about what the finances of their future man should be. And all the women were starting around 70-ish thousand, all the way up to 600 and some odd $1,000 a year. Huh? The women never stopped wanting what they want. We don't shame them for it. We just shame the men for saying, okay, fine. Now, if I can provide that, what do I get in return? Z, you still there? Z still here. Ask the question again. All right, fine. If I can provide that, what do I get in return? Z, you still there? Z still here. Okay, fine. I can't provide all of that. I can subsidize you. I can put us in the situation where I can't do this today. I can promise that within a decade. What do I get for that? Z, you still there? Z still here. Oh boy. And once the men start asking these women, what do I get for subsidizing you? What do I get for my emotional labor? What do I get for being your companion? Huh? What do I get for overproducing for you? And maybe a child that's not even mine, not biologically mine. What do I get for that? That's when the women start screaming, well,
Fair. That's not fair! That is not fair!
huh? Exactly. It's okay, miss. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Huh? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. I almost forgot. See? Exactly. Now I'm gonna just like I'm gonna cut and splice some stuff to put that on the screen while I'm talking, and maybe I'll say it and then I can remember exactly what to say, because this new hype button feature throwing Z way off. All right. And KMS continues and says, women are cowards and men are seeing them not defend themselves or definitely separate from the worst of them. Quote, you're letting her talk for you. Exactly. Exactly. Women are mortified of the sisterhood. Women are mortified of the sisterhood. They're mortified of when women say, well, if you'll accept that, that's good for you. but for me, I have higher standards. I have, I've lived, I've traveled. I think about this different. Oh, that's good for you. Oh, that's cute. Oh, bless your heart. Things that men would shrug off concerning other men, or things that men would say, oh, that's how you feel? You want to go outside? You want to take this outside? We could handle this a different way. Huh? Women are so cowardly concerning women. Women would rather be miserable and single, sticking to the sister girl code, than tell another woman, F off, I'm happy, I'm content in my situation. You could go ahead and buzz yourself to death with that goddamn rose toy, but I'm good over here. Huh? Yikes. Women are allowing for the outliers to do too much talking. Please, please, someone find me this clip. I saw it only once and I didn't save it, and I'm beating myself up. It looked like it was a panel, and one of the women were saying, I don't know if she was a sex therapist or whatever. She was saying, men, stop trying to beat the vagina up. She didn't say the word vagina. Y'all know what she said. Stop trying to beat it. We don't want it beat up. And like this is abusive and this is abusive, whatever. And another woman looked at her on the panel and said, ish. So I want it beat up. One of the few times recorded where a woman looks another woman in the face and says, I don't know what you're talking about. But over here, somebody please, for the love of God, if you could find the clip and send it to Z, right? Because I've been beating myself up. I saw it once and I never saw it again. Huh? That's what I get for not saving it. Huh? That was one of the few times where they checked the person talking. But as a general rule, I agree with KMS. You're letting her talk for you. Shout out to all the women who allow for the outliers to talk for them. Huh? And when you allow for the outliers to talk for you like this.
This is what I tell average looking and below average looking women. If you can't date up, be alone. Life is easier that way. And I know that's controversial. I don't care. I don't care.
You allow for the outliers to talk for you like this.
All women from all ages and all races realizing that marriage is bullshit and just an excuse for men to suck the life force out your ass. That makes me feel good. I love that.
Then you get this.
I'm having dinner with my girl, and I want y'all to just notice something. There's women, all eating there. Women, all eating there. And let's not forget right there too, because they're everywhere. Oh my god. I don't normally go out, but when I do, I go out with my girls, and I am seeing something, a trend. Girls are all going out with their girlfriends. There's not like one date.
All right. And thank you from this. Thank you for this. From Africa I came, and he says Maya Jama is the name of the UK South Asian lady. Z. Okay, thank you. By the way, Z, thank you. Right. Okay. So I will be looking her up. I would love to have a conversation with that lady. Y'all send her this way. Because Myron is easy. That's easy. It's easy to pick Myron out of all of these dudes and say, well, this is what represents you. That's easy. Huh? Y'all could start sending these folks this way. Huh? And Cyrus Burke says, and thank you for the super chat. Z, that first black woman you played was exposed by Daphne. She's clout chasing and lying, apparently. What first lady? The lady from MSNBC? This one?
The majority of men in America want a return to traditional gender roles, but most women aren't so sure. That's just one finding from a brand new poll from the nonprofit news publication, The 19th, along with SurveyMonkey. We're the first folks to get a look at this, and the study also takes a look at Americans' views on toxic masculinity, as well as abortion access and stay-at-home parenting. There's a lot to dig into here with editor-at-large for The 19th, Aaron Haynes. Aaron, I was so happy when I started looking at these poll numbers, and I knew that
Aaron Haynes, sorry. Aaron Haynes, is that who you're speaking on, Cyrus? I'm trying to go back down to the comments. Wait a minute, because I got a lot to go. Okay, wait. Okay, maybe he's not listening anymore. Yeah. When you get a chance, let me know. Let me know. And thank you for that, Cyrus. So yeah, if she's lying apparently, then yeah, I would like to know. Maybe you have to give me a link to what Daphne was saying. Maybe we have to do some more research on that, right? To see what she was lying about. Yeah. And it's bound to look, I've said it before, the average woman, black woman in this case, is cannon fodder for these weirdo women in their gender war. White women, Latina women, elite women, other very well resourced and connected black women. The average black woman is just cannon fodder for these women's gender war. We already know the average black woman can't afford being single. We already know the average black woman doesn't have those type of resources, doesn't have those type of connections, just isn't in that space. And so when you have these outliers who wax poetic about how women are kicking ass and how women are doing so well and how women are out achieving the men, right? And then we have articles and we have research that comes out and the numbers say that, well, that's actually not true. Black and Latina women who never marry are the least wealthy in the US. So this is where Mr. Z comes up with the outliers are doing too much talking then. The outlier women who are doing well are doing too much talking. No, ma'am, go suffer in silence by yourself in the corner. Ebony K. Williams, oops, goddamn Z. Huh? Go suffer in the corner by your goddamn self in silence. Real talk with Yanni? Chrissy? Huh? All you outlier women are doing way too much talking. So if everything is grand with you being single or with you with a non-black man or with you with another woman, that's great. But you're doing way too much talking. The outliers are doing way too much talking. And as KMS said, your average woman is too cowardly to tell her to shut the hell up. You don't talk for me. As a matter of fact, you're in the way. It's only a handful of women that actually have the ovaries to say it.
Y'all want to come in my comments talking about male-centered, decenter men. You know who I'm decentering? I'm decentering you think that all women should think like you. I'm decentering you fake ass girl ass. I am decentering you because you're the problem. For my life and my experiences, you have always been the problem.
Oh, okay. No, Afro Merchant says, nah, the black girl crying that she's lonely. And Cyrus says, the black woman with the septum ring and the black shirt. Oh, okay. So she's lying? So when she was trying to get sympathy points, sympathy tears? Huh? So it's just crocodile tears. Shout out to social media. Send me whatever Daphne said. Yeah, that. Shout out to social media and shout out to Destro for calling it. What, the car confessionals? Shout out to all of us and the Black Manosphere for speaking about the crocodile tears and you know, me and Indigo speaking about the women pressing record on their phone, turning on the crocodile tears, then ending the video, titling it, hashtagging it, posting it to get likes and views about something that may or may not be actually happening in their life. As Cheryl says here, the tearist. Huh? The tearist. Oh, man. So once again, Cyrus, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. And let's see. Let's make sure because I know we're missing some. Wait a minute, yo. I go back up. Okay. Cyrus. Okay. Let's go to the next. And Sports Droppings says, and that's, I don't know why I find that funny. Sports Droppings says, as a leftist myself, I've long recognized the blind spot in my quote-unquote tribe. There is a strong working class critique of feminism, and leftists plug their ears ever since Warren Farrell in the 90s. Yeah, the you mean the Saturday Night Live skit where he's going off about that was Warren Farrell, right? Where he's going off about the divorce, right? Somebody send me that, by the way. I think BGS has played it a couple of times. Somebody send me that. If you can, please. I think that's what you're talking about. Maybe. Maybe. Um but anyway, yeah, no, for those of us who generally occupy the left and we occupy Black manosphere spaces or advocacy for Black men or Black red pill spaces, it does throw you for a loop watching how, and you saw this with how Dr. Richard Reeves spoke on the issue of boys and men and how he knows he has to throw boys and men under the bus first to help save them. Z, that don't make no sense. It makes perfect sense. He knows he has to play down boys and men in the presence of women in attempts to advocate for the boys and men. Fascinating. Duh. Being generally on the left or having more left of center and left of center left politics, what throws you for a loop is the folks that generally have a critique on how systems operate in the perniciousness of certain systems and how certain ideologies and worldviews can be weaponized, and the negativity that can come from that. Once we start speaking about boys and men and their trials and tribulations and the struggles, that's when they start sounding real conservative. Huh? Pascal Robert from This Is Revolution, he realized that also with the Will Smith slap, with the Chris Rock slap, right? Where he was speaking about, Pascal was speaking about Black women who he would generally think is on the left, started speaking about protection and how Will Smith was protecting his wife, and you don't speak about a Black woman's hair, and he was like, wait a minute, I thought you was nonviolent. I thought you was a leftist. I thought, wait a minute. Oh, and I recall making mention of that back when that happened, back during that event, and saying, yeah, Pascal, they don't really mean it. Once again, as Mr. Z says, y'all don't bring women to the deep end of the pool in conversation about men and women. And because y'all don't bring them to the deep end of the pool, you're generally surprised, or maybe you're pretending that to be surprised when an event happens and women go completely in a different direction than you thought they were going to go, including Black women who claim any center, left of center, better yet, politics. They don't mean any of it concerning them. Huh? You also have to appreciate how many Black women do not find Chris Rock funny, because Chris Rock been dropping red pill gems in his stand-ups for decades. They don't think he's funny. They don't find him attractive. They don't like Chris Rock. Meanwhile, they may think Will is a bit corny, but they find him attractive. Lighter-skinned brother, somewhat muscular, tall. Huh? Successful, famous. So in their mind, Will was always supposed to slap Chris Rock. These women mean feminism in the slightest of ways. They don't actually mean it. And you saw that with the Will and Chris Rock situation. Will Smith and Chris Rock situation. How are you a feminist talking about protection? About words. A stand-up comedian made a joke about a Black woman's hair or lack thereof during an award ceremony in front of what, hundreds or thousands, being viewed by what, possibly millions, and it was perfectly okay for the husband of said woman to get up on stage at this award ceremony and physically assault the stand-up comedian and then start cursing and barking at said comedian. And black women applauded that and started speaking about the protection of black women over words about hair. Huh? I'm bringing all of that up in response to sports droppings to say, once again, the left's blind spot is not actually a blind spot. It's a la carte leftism, Jesus Christ. You're seeing it on the right now with the censoring in cancel culture, literal cancel culture, not that crap that they were saying about the left years ago. Somebody, going off on you on Twitter because you said some racist crap and you potentially being let go or fired from your private sector job isn't cancel culture. The government, the US government, the US federal government saying, hey, we will fire you or we will put pressure on your private sector job to fire you if we find you not speaking about this event and this person in the ways we deem fit. That is cancel culture. Let Z say this again. We'll take it out of man-woman conversation. Because people don't press other people and bring them to the deep end of the pool in conversation, many people are surprised by folks' politics, by what they think about gender, by what they think about children, by what they think about money, by whatever Darwinistic, borderline neo-Nazi worldview they have, borderline eugenics, if not full-on eugenics worldview they have, racist, sexist view they have, because many of us have associates, co-workers, people we call quote-unquote friends that we never have real conversation with. Everything is surface level. Huh? Y'all don't bring them to deep into the pool. And I appreciate that maybe with certain co-workers or co-workers in general, you may not want to do that. That's why we call people associates. Maybe with associates, you may not want to do that. But with your quote-unquote friends and family, y'all have whole friends and family, y'all don't know their politics? I'm not talking about someone you're okay, cool with. I'm talking about family, you in your 30s and you don't know the politics of your siblings, your closest cousins, your own parents. Huh? You're trying to tell me you've had this person as a friend for a decade plus and you don't know their politics? You don't know their views on men and women? All right. So sports dropping, once again, what I'm saying is, yes, on the left, it's not a blind spot. Right? I would argue it's not a blind spot. I think their politics is what it is, and what people are running into is the cost of their politics. They didn't appreciate that this is a dance. They didn't appreciate the pillars that uphold the society. They thought you could remove these quote unquote gendered pleasures from the men, and that the men will still perform in these ways just because. And so they're throwing a temper tantrum that the men are saying, well, I just won't participate then. Huh? And there you go. And thank you for the super chat, Sports Droppings. Thank you for the super chat. And No Placeholder says, I blame her mom for her crying at lunch in school. Yeah. If that, well, come to find out, that story may not be true, No Placeholder. So I guess it's a good thing that I'm reading this so late. But yeah, come to find out, that might not actually be a true story. So we'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of things. And thank y'all for letting me know. Thank you, Cyrus Burke. We'll try to check out Daphne's channel and see what's what with that. And yeah, how much of that was a lie. The lie detector has decided or determined. And No Place. Once again, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. We're gonna try to find out how much of that was a lie or not. And Afro Merchant, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. And he says Z Fund. And thank you, sir. Thank you. Let me see what else we have here. I'm gonna read some of y'all comments in a minute. Right, but I definitely want to kind of go further into detail with Sports Dropping and the leftist critique. Right, yeah, that does throw me for a loop also. But I appreciate it. I appreciate that people want the advantages of the systems, right? With the question is, how do you mitigate for the things that you actually like about said system or said organization or said way of organizing people? How do you mitigate for the parts of this that you actually enjoy and want to keep, and then the parts that you don't, while considering that there's a whole other side, a whole other group of people that you must factor in this conversation? This is why, and once again, I don't agree with this, but this is why radical feminists, I'm talking about really radical feminists, speak about women needing to be same-sex loving, because you're only going to produce hypocritical women if you're still engaging with men. Exhibit A. Now, once again, I'm not agreeing with radical feminists. Don't even agree with regular feminists, especially after the second wave, right? But the one thing radical feminists, especially the same-sex loving ones, the political same-sex loving ones, one thing I do agree with them on is it's going to produce hypocritical stuff. And here you go. They're going to try to rebrand it, rename. No, just be a good person. Why can't you just be a good person? They're going to try to rebrand the parts of patriarchy that they want to keep as you just being a good person, you just being a gentleman, which once again is part of patriarchy. The parts of chivalry, the parts of patriarchy, the parts of being a gentleman that the women want to keep, they're just going to rebrand it as you just being a good person, a good man. The parts of traditional femininity that they want to keep, they're going to keep it. Right? And once again, Afro Merchant, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Red Falls Black says, and thank you for the super chat. Women are scared of the quote unquote social death that comes with defying the sisterhood. Crimson Cure. Yes. Yeah. Right. And I can appreciate that. I understand that. I actually can appreciate that. There's a fear of defying the sisterhood and the alienation and the silent treatment and what comes with that from other women, particularly in our case, Black women. And we know women's tongues are sharp, and we watch, and you've even heard women, instructors and whatnot, professors, female teachers speak to you about how absolutely what's the word I'm looking for? How vicious, I think that's the best word, women can be towards women. And I remember watching something, and a white woman was saying, you know, the men, the boys in school they'll get into a tussle or whatever, and they may or may not be friends afterward, but it's pretty much done after that. The women, on the other hand, when a girl gets her claws into you or she starts bullying you as another girl, you might have to change schools. Huh? Because the girls are so vicious. So if we know girls are engaging in that type of behavior in high school, anybody wonder what adult women are engaging in? Especially considering when they feel betrayed by another woman because that woman is advocating for men, or that woman seems to them like a pick me because she's saying to other women, look, I can't sign on to this. I get what you're doing. You're trying to present men with the poker face so you can bid women up more so that men are willing to die and work for men. Even, excuse me, men are willing to die and work for women even more than they already do. I get what you're attempting to engage in. I get what you're attempting to do. You're trying to call men's bluff so that men could put more on the table in this negotiation. Women's hostile takeover, attempt to hostile takeover. I get what you're trying to do. I just can't sign up for it. And so what women do to that woman, and the way women speak about that individual woman, or women who say, yeah, I see what you're doing. I see what you're saying. I just ain't gonna do it. Huh? I get you have an issue with men because of your look and you weren't chosen by the men you find attractive. I get what your issue is with men because you weren't prom queen. You weren't one of the it girls in high school or in college. I get it. And so now you have a few dollars, or you have a bit of influence, or maybe even some actual genuine power. And so now you're going to make men feel it. Now it's time to make them pay. I get it. I just don't want to participate. Not only will I not participate, I won't even turn the blind eye. Those women are seen as enemy of the state by women. And yeah, they might suffer consequences from the sisterhood. And Red Falls Black, once again, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, they might suffer consequences. So, yep. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. Jesus Christ. Yeah, like I said, I'm just going to create something and put that on the screen when I say it, right? And Dominic D says, what's wrong with being a good person? Nothing wrong with being a good person. There's an assumption, though, that women are far better at being good people than men. Not to mention what also happens with this good person conversation. And remember the way I was framing this. Remember what I was saying. Women still want certain parts of patriarchy. Women still want providers and protectors, and women still want to practice hypergamy, dating and marrying up, in income, in social class, etc., as much as she can. And so what women are calling being a good person is rebranding the parts of patriarchy that they actually want to keep. Do you have anything to say to what I just said? It's not actually simply being a good person. It's rebranding the parts of patriarchy women want to keep. In other words, getting patriarchy at a discount or for free so that you don't have to play your part as a woman in why men did certain things. So what Mr. Z is saying is that the women we're describing do not want to fill in their end of the bargain. The tradition, so the parts of patriarchy, quote unquote, traditional manhood that men would participate in or act out. There are certain parts of that women want to keep without also complementing that with how she behaves, how she speaks, how she comports herself, what she's bringing to the table. And so rebranding the parts of patriarchy that women want to keep as generally just being a good person, considering men. I'm not saying about women. is women getting patriarchy on a discount because all they did was rebrand patriarchy, or at least the parts of patriarchy they want to keep. So it's not necessarily about being a good person. It's about being this type of patriarch, or at least exhibiting these characteristics or this type part of patriarchy that benefits women or this individual woman, without once again offering any parts of the femininity that complemented that part of patriarchy and why that man or those men performed this part of patriarchy. Provide, protect, generally be stoic, right? So once again, when men wouldn't necessarily go back and forth with women, all that talk, Mr. Z has said it before, all the talk of, and you've heard Real Talk with Yenny say this, all the talk of women saying, you know, men are sassy, or these new men are sassy, these new age men are sassy. I don't want no man to go back and forth with me. I want a man that's a real man. Real Talk with Yenny says this. You don't get that. If you butt into female liberation, autonomy, any of that, you don't get not sassy men. Why? Because what you're asking for is a form of masculinity that is part of the patriarchy. The stoic men that don't go back and forth with women, the one-word men, that's part of patriarchy. That is a performance. It's a performance defined by women. If we question the performance of manhood, we're not talking about males here. We're talking about men. If we're saying, okay, males are not automatically men. Man is a performance. And when we say man, which oftentimes is synonymous with patriarch, masculinity, the things that we associate with that are often being stoic, being a man of few words, right? Stiff upper lip, not necessarily emotional, not particularly expressive in how you speak and comport yourself, right? If what we're saying is that we're starting to question, not even starting, we're pushing back on those things and those notions, then you do not get men who are stoic, who are men of few words, who are men with stiff upper lip. You don't get that. And you don't get to rebrand those parts of patriarchy that women enjoy into just men being quote unquote good people or a good person for engaging in this behavior, once again, without expecting any reciprocity. God damn, could you get it out? Reciprocity, there we go, for said behaviors. The men participated in that, whether they realized it or not, because there was a CZ, you said it and you missed it again. Reciprocity, there we go, for that. That's all I'm saying. No? Oh, man. So, yeah, Dominic Dean, there you go. That gives you a second. So, I wanted to kind of speak on that earlier, the clips. I have a couple more. And I find this interesting. So, let's play these back to back. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. And we will be speaking about them. I'm gonna play them back to back, and then we'll speak about it on the other end.
Stop! Stop! You gotta go!
I don't like her.
I'm not.
Hey, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking. You're gorgeous. I'm just letting you know you're gorgeous.
You gotta leave.
Girls swear that they want men to approach, and then they act like this. Sometimes they are the ones keeping themselves and everyone around them single. Literally nobody wants to deal with energy like that. And look, guys aren't perfect. Clearly this was not the best time, but if it was another dude who's tired of dating apps and tired of feeling lonely, finally worked up the courage to put himself out there, and this is the kind of reaction he got, that is probably his first and last time ever doing that. And the funny part is, I wasn't even talking to her. I was trying to compliment her friend in the back, and she jumps in, starts screaming and making a scene. Classic fridge protecting the snacks. So yeah, you can keep talking about why don't men approach us anymore? But when you act like this, you create the exact reality that you complain about. So when you're sitting in your 30s and thinking, where have all the good men gone? Rewind this clip and you'll have your answer.
Again, never, ever, 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 ever again. I have officially been pushed over the edge. I can't do it. I will never, ever approach a woman in public unless I know for sure I'm going to die tomorrow, or it's God's divine intervention leading me to this woman. It's never happening again. So once again, there's this girl. I try to go talk to her, right? I can't really tell by the hints. I'm assuming that's the case. You give such the smallest hints, you never know for sure if they're right. I go up to her. What happens? I look at her, I smile and say hi. What does she do? Turns to me. Straight face, nothing. Turns back. Doesn't even acknowledge that I was there. Just looks me dead in the eyes, doesn't say anything. And just continues doing what she was doing. And that was it. Never again am I ever doing that. Heaven forbid. I was just trying to be kind. You know, I don't do this often. I don't. And then all of a sudden, oh, well, fuck me then. I guess that's just a sin for me to do that. And I'm not crazy for thinking she was interested. Granted, it was a 50-50, but by God. Could have just said, oh, no, I'm not interested. But to go to that extent? Are we serious? Like, dead ass? I didn't even do it in a weird way. Like, why? What did I do to deserve that? I wasn't even mean with it. I did it in the most calculated way imaginable to not make it weird. And yet, I'm seen as some horrible individual based off of the reaction that it was given. I can't do it anymore. I do not have the mental or emotional capacity to do that. I'm only going to wait for somebody to come to me. That's it. I don't care how long it takes. I could be 50 before I ever get married. At this point, I don't care. You all have made it damn near impossible to even approach you all. It's horrendous. It's horrible. And I hate that that's the case. I do. I really do.
Yeah, that happens. And then the women wonder why some of them at least, are reacting to the environment, well, like this.
I'm having dinner with my girl, and I want y'all to just notice something. There's women, all eating there. Women, all eating there. And let's not forget right there too, because they're everywhere. Oh my God. I don't normally go out, but when I do, I go out with my girls, and I am seeing something, a trend. Girls are all going out with their girlfriends. There's not like one date.
Oh man. Okay, so what I played was two average-looking white men, okay-looking white men, and they're both saying similar. One of them actually played his interaction. To those women, you're not him. You're not the guy. Fine. We've encouraged our daughters to be little mean assholes. The young women don't owe the men anything. I want to emphasize this. The women owe the men nothing. They don't owe them sex. They don't owe them kind words. They don't owe them companionship. The women don't owe the men anything. Appreciate girls and women owe boys and men nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not kindness, not a smile, not kind words, not companionship, not sex, not friendship, not romance, not intimacy, nothing. Fine. With that, do we appreciate that the men and the boys have seen this and they will respond in kind? What did these men say, particularly the second dude? I'm done. I don't care if I'm 50 and single. I'm done. Even the lady, white lady, right, that did the whole sex change thing, and it was, many of us have played it all throughout male spaces where she cosplayed as a dude, and then she hung around other men, and she realized, oh crap, men are actually pretty friendly. They have a hard exterior, and they pause, and they kind of vet you first, but when you're in the circle, you're in the circle, right? And they give you words of advice and encouragement, et cetera, et cetera. Do we recall what happened when she approached that white woman and tried to ask her out or ask her on a date or whatever? Do we appreciate that she realized how mean and rude that woman was and how dismissive and defensive that woman was? And then when the woman realized, and later on in the segment, when she realized, oh, she's a woman that I'm talking to, how much kinder she was and how she apologized for her demeanor. Ladies, you can be that defensive. You can be that, maybe even antagonistic. That's okay. The men and the boys will move accordingly. SYSBM for black men, passport bros for all Western men, American men. Huh? The men and the boys will move accordingly. I would argue the masses of men in the West appreciate the women owe us nothing. Particularly black men, we appreciate the women owe us nothing. We will not be violent with them. We will not insult them. We just gonna get the hell away from them. Particularly in their prime, decided by who? By us. Particularly in their prime. When the women are cute, when the skin is still tight, if the women are mean little assholes, they can be that. It is in their right. It is their prerogative. Appreciate the men don't owe you companionship, just like you didn't owe them companionship in your 20s, and in his 20s. Just like you didn't owe him that, you didn't owe him considering him over the slightly or considerably older man with some resources, just like you didn't owe him considering him over the 6'2", 6'3", 6'5" tall chisel chin Chad or Tyrone, just like you didn't owe him considering him in his 20s. He doesn't owe you considering you in your mid to late 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s. Once again, what we have here are women showing you, when unshackled, when not forced to, when not encouraged to, when not cajoled into participating in this society a certain way, conducting themselves a certain way, maybe by force, by norms, by customs. When unshackled, and I mean that in the most generous definition of that word, when given the freedom, when given the free range, you will see this from a sizable portion, if not most, of your female population. Not simply a hatred of men, but a disdain of your average man. A contempt for your average man. And so elite men, particularly tall, good-looking men, maybe well-resourced men, who may or may not have seen this behavior before, will minimize it because they're not on the receiving end of this, particularly not on a daily basis. The women will definitely minimize this because, once again, considering intimate pursuits, they're not on the receiving end of this. But your everyday man, the buyer of women, the one that shops for women, they do experience this and they will be moving accordingly. They do not owe the women considering, oh no, she act like it because there's so many men that they're so threatening and then you can tell them no or you're not interested and then they'll still keep on approaching and harassing you. And so she's only doing that to me. The men don't owe the women consideration, just as the women don't owe the men consideration. So for the women that conduct themselves like this, for the women who allow for their female friends to conduct themselves like this in their presence, appreciate that when you and her are now in your later 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, possibly single with no man, telling us how much you enjoy that, or being honest and saying you don't enjoy that. That's you. No? We don't owe you being kind. We don't owe you consideration. Huh? It may be cringe to you and disgusting. We don't owe you not dating your niece. Ooh, goddamn, Z. Huh? We don't owe you not dating your daughter. God damn, Z. I just want to be clear about this. It's cool to bark on the men because you have a steady stream of men attempting to approach you, court you, date you, have sex with you, be around you, be intimate with you, be romantic with you, and they're willing to shell out whatever money they have, whatever time they have, all of their energy. Because you have a steady stream of men attempting to do that, you engage in this behavior. What older women don't tell you, because they're liars and they're attempting to protect their ego, is that slowly but surely lessens year by year by year. And you think you're going to be okay with it, but you won't be. Very few women are honest about it, particularly on the internet. Lots of women lie about it, particularly on the internet. Huh? Y'all saw the clips. Appreciate from many men in America, white, black, Latino, Asian, or otherwise, particularly for black men. We've seen this before. We might have been on the receiving end of this before. There's a cost to that. For black women, there's a cost to that. Check that interracial marriage rate. For white women, there's a cost to that. Check how many Asian women are married to white men. There's a cost to that. Huh? For Latinas, there's a cost to that. Huh? Yeah. So definitely wanted y'all to see those clips. As a matter of fact, we're gonna play them back to back once again. But yeah, today I thought I was gonna do far more fussing and cussing. Mr. Z barely dropped. I don't even think I dropped the F bomb. So we ain't really fuss and cuss today. That was the plan. I will be well, don't say will. I probably will be covering Shay Sade's coverage of Chrissy later on tonight. So y'all look forward to that. There's that. Oh yeah, and I wanted to wait a minute. Y'all gives you a second. Okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. Chief Rocka, you're gonna have to email me or link the C-SPAN conversation that you wanted me to cover, because now it's been a few days and I don't know which one it is, and those C-SPAN lives are like 3 hours long and two some odd hours long, and they're not titled in ways that I would know which one you're referring to. So wherever you are, Chief Rocka, whenever you get to this, and I should have said this earlier, so you could have caught that at the beginning of the stream. Please email me the conversation you want me to cover, and I'll get to it as soon as possible. Yeah, that depends because of the days. Y'all already know. Don't put it in the comments. Don't put it in the comments. Regular streams. So yeah. So anybody know Chief Rocka personally or his number or whatever, send this to him so that he could send me or email me the link to what he want me to cover, and I can get to that. Right. So make sure I make that announcement. Like I said, hopefully, if time is working with me tomorrow, I mean not tomorrow, later on tonight, y'all will get a response to Shay Sade speaking about Chrissy. And it's much of what me and Sarge Willie Pete have said before. It really is that Black women want to be the universal beauty standard around the globe. I'm gonna say this now. I'm gonna probably say it again later. I want to say it now so I can remind myself. First, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat and the hype button. What I don't think Black women in particular appreciate is what it took for white men to put white women in the position of beauty standard as a consequence of white men's just conquering of the planet. White men had to lose their humanity, right? Like, appreciate how selfish you are for charging and taxing Black men with this. You're less of a man until you can do what white men did, which is go around the planet, circumnavigate the planet, conquer, pillage. I'll just say the word rape, conquer, pillage, and force onto the world the dark-skinned Black woman, beauties, right? Erase certain people's history, erase certain people. And after decades and centuries, people will adopt dark-skinned Black women as being the beauty standard. Appreciate there is no peaceful way of doing that. Various groups of people will refuse a dark-skinned Black woman being the beauty standard, any Black woman being the beauty standard. Various people around the world, because they want to maintain their own internal beauty standard, right? These people had white women forced on them as the beauty standard. A few people might have went willingly on that beauty standard. Some folks fought it, but appreciate that this is what it is. So what Chrissy and her ilk are charging Black men with is not simply elevating Black women's beauty standard. Excuse me, not simply elevating Black women as the beauty standard. It's what needs to be done for Black women to be elevated to beauty standard. Huh? Oh yeah, true indeed. And Saint Cyr says, don't forget Slim. Slim is a part of that beauty standard, just not skin color. Exactly. So that's not where the majority of at least Black American women are. So what it would be for Black American women and for a sizable number of West African women is medium build, if we're going to be supremely kind. Medium build, darker skinned Black women. Huh? Darker than a brown paper bag. Slightly wider noses than Europeans. Mr. Z said slightly. I know, I know. Huh? us to for black men to do that, do you, Chrissy, and your ilk appreciate what black men would have to do that? This is not simply Sir Mix-a-Lot and Baby Got Back, right? And appreciate even when that song came out, it still didn't necessarily take in the mainstream. Not right then and there. It took a constant wave of that type of music. From the Mystical, Shake It Fast, to the Juveniles, Back That Thing Up. It took a constant stream of that. That's about as far as you gonna go peacefully. Huh? It also took non-black women, J-Lo, non-black women, Kim Kardashian. Huh? White men are marrying Asian women, and Asian women still ain't the beauty standard. Appreciate that white men, even well-off white men, are marrying Asian women, and Asian women still are not the beauty standard. What it would take to make black women the beauty standard is black men wholesale selling out their humanity, finding some technology, developing some technology that far outstrips anything coming out of Western Europe, America, China, Russia, monopolizing said society, said technology, monopolizing said technology long enough to conquer the world, and then force dark-skinned black women as the beauty standard, as part of black men's conquest of the world. Not to mention the incentive for black men to do that. Well, we just ended that whole conversation because black women ain't incentivizing nothing. Beginning, end. Well, Chrissy, that project's dead. Black women would actually have to be, I don't know, backing black men up. I don't know. Black women would have to be, dare I say it, on black men's program. Oh, didn't you say what program, Chrissy? Operation Make Black Women the Beauty Standard. How about that? Huh? So I'll cover that later on today, hopefully, and hopefully I remember to say all of this stuff, right? Good point. And Vegas says black women would deflect. Excuse me. Black women. God damn, Z, come on, do this again. Black women would defect anyway because they don't want us in control. Well, there's that. Yeah. So yeah, we'll pause right here, y'all. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the thank you button for the replay squad and the hype button, and thank y'all. Y'all have been hyping up my videos, and I think that's why my subscriber base is growing how it has been. And thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for all the new folks here. Mr. Z, let me end out with saying this. Mr. Z's goal is not to necessarily anger you, although that will be happening. It is not necessarily to enrage you, although that will be happening also. But it is definitely to inform you and to also remind you that first, it's not a figment of your imagination. Not just the effery of black women, but the effery of Western women writ large. It's not a figment of your imagination, the coons. It's not a figment of your imagination, the sellouts. It's not a figment of your imagination, white supremacy. It's not a figment of your imagination how people have weaponized respectability politics concerning black people, particularly black men. It's not a figment of your imagination. It's not. Mr. Z still does encourage you because the best thing for your life is to keep on striving, right? We speak about best practices here. None of this is guaranteed. That's another thing Mr. Z won't do, is sell y'all snake oil, right? There is no wooden stake. There was no garlic that just gets rid of this vampire. No. Best practices. Things that either mitigate or is the best practice for success in the America that we know, at least for now. Yeah. So I want y'all to appreciate, for all the new listeners, particularly the younger brothers under the age of 30, definitely under the age of 25. This is not about you sitting on your hands. Hopefully you don't sit on your hands. This is not necessarily about you feeling defeated, although I do describe why there are men who engage in that, particularly black men. This is about informing you and others why their environment is the way it is. And definitely over the past 9 going on 10 months, since I've been able to figure out how to use StreamYard more effectively, I've been able to reference videos, some of which I've kept constant on my channel, some of which I've deleted and bring back on, and delete and bring back on as I cycle through newer videos and whatnot. I've been able to use videos, use the title of articles, use other podcasts, use other streams as a reference to what I'm saying. The beauty of me now appreciating how to use StreamYards better is that I don't just have to say it. I don't just have to ask you to click the link in the description box. Depending on the video or depending on the audio clip, I could just play it for you. This is to inform you of the environment. This is to go into further detail about the environment, because some of us know, we just don't know how crazy it is. But you can't stop. Huh? I just want all the young men to appreciate this. You can't stop. Right? There is no going backwards to the 1950s. There is no going back. We can't stop. With that, this is my goal, inform you enough to make the best decisions for you and for your family, your future family. Huh? And Better You says he gets more glee when you waterboard yourself. Hysterical. And Passman OG, and thank you for this. And Passman OG says, Z, your progression in your production has been impressive. Passman OG, that's because of y'all. That's really because of donations. That's really because of folks like Compassionate and the Roger Report and BGS and Louis, Red Pill Sleeper Cell, and all of you that email me, AB Media, Shay Sade, Toya, all the folks that have their personal number, Better You, all of you, right? Compassionate, a bunch of you, Louis, Toya, I got the Roger Report, LAR, it's a bunch of y'all, right? That's because of y'all. Like the Black Urus who's a frequent on my channel, all of you that really, my live comments make the goddamn stream. Like I said it before. Thank you, actually, Passport OG, for that. I say it so often. Y'all have no idea how much I be beating myself up when I have the chance to go back and to listen to a stream, and really, I say this to my lady all the time. I already know what I said, right? I don't really care to listen to my own voice. It's reading through the comments that I might have missed. And man, like, Trell alone is a one-man army in the comments, right? Let alone so many of the rest of you, Saint Seer and whatnot, Indigo Flow, Spain Man, all of you, right? And it's the live comments damn near make the show. Pastor OG, yeah, and it's just so that it's the production is what it is, mainly because of y'all. And that's also part of my goal here, is to speak to the frustration of black men while still encouraging us and telling us, you know, you really don't have a choice but to keep moving, right? And so, regardless of wherever I end up, and if I do become one of these outliers that Mr. Z is saying that's doing too much talking, I'm one of the outliers that's doing too much talking. My goal is not to speak necessarily for myself. My goal would be to speak for, as much as I could, the average black man, because that's the person that really doesn't. No one really puts the microphone in front of the average black man. And shout out to the brother average man unplugged, right? We speak about the Pookies and Ray Rays, and we allow the brothers that are doing exceedingly well to monopolize the conversation, whether they're from the streets or more white collar or professional environments. That's why Mr. Z said the outliers are doing too much talking. Because whether you were or you are a street king and you're able to clean up your money before them folks caught up to you, or you're one of the elite brothers, quarter 300 some odd thousand plus a year, $250,000 a year plus, when you're the one primarily speaking and you might have a tinge of contempt for average man, or you think average man should just shut up and take the slot that's on the table in front of him, why are you talking then? Huh? So appreciate that's why we're here. That's Mr. Z's gold now, and that is going to be Mr. Z's goal essentially for the foreseeable future. Huh? Pastor G says nobody cares about the average black man. Say that exactly. Exactly. No. Vincent, brought to you by viewers like you, head ass. Exactly. That is what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm engaging in right now. Huh? Man. So, okay, y'all. So we'll pause right here. We pretty much we're over 2.5 hours. So we'll pause right here, everyone. Thank y'all for all y'all help. Thanks, Passport OG, for the kind words. And we'll pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. Yes, the goal is to cover Shay Sade's video about Chrissy later on today, or tonight, better yet. And so we'll try to get to that, and we'll truly pause right here. And y'all have a great, great rest of y'all day. All right, everyone. Saint say car stuff. I got to do a car stream. I got y'all. Right. I've been meaning to do that for a few minutes. I got y'all. I'm gonna have to find a bunch of stuff to reference and whatnot, and yeah, because the first one I did a couple years ago, I used a clip from Carwow and yeah, they flagged it so bad that they took the whole stream down. So that's why y'all can't even find it. So yeah. All right, y'all. And I think that's the only stream that ever happened for. I've been flagged, I've been demonetized, whatever. But what I haven't had done since that was have a whole stream taken down. So I've been pretty good at that, and I think I say fair use, and I put the fair use banner up, all of that good stuff, so it allows for me to, kind of skirt around. If the thing that keeps on banning me is background music. That's what really gets me hemmed up by YouTube. When I forget there's background music, or I think it's probably stock audio or something like that. Come to find out it's some song I didn't know about, or the background music is from a well-known artist or whatever the hell, and I get banned for it and I get demonetized. Or I could always trim that segment out, or mute the sound. But the problem is, and I would do that a lot. The problem is when you do that, you lose the live chat. And half of the stream is y'all in the live chat. So there's certain times I say, screw it, whatever few dollars I was gonna make from you know from the folks that was gonna come later on replay gang, I'll just forego it because the live chat was so fire, right? So yeah, that's what keeps on bamming me. Usually it's the background music on different videos I would play, right? So hey, sometimes you just gotta lose one, right? So yeah, y'all. All right, so we'll pause right here. Truly, love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all gotta check out other Black Manosphere content and other non-Manosphere content. All right, y'all. Mr. Z out.